Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the fourth session of our Small Business Festival Month, courtesy of the New South Wales State Government and also the snowy Monaro Shire Council, brought to you by Outdoors New South Wales and ACT. For those that don't know me, I'm Laurie Mode and I'm the CEO of Outdoors New South Wales and ACT. I've got an amazing guest speaker for you today, and this is to really bring some opportunity for you to discover what you can do in your business to take it forward and learn from the challenges of COVID, but try to achieve those goals that you've really set yourself for in your business or your activity. Firstly, can I say Warrami? Welcome in Darug language here. May I pay my respects to our traditional owners here on the land that I come to you on, and pay my respects to elders past, present, emerging, and the future ones that we'll be working with to educate people on the lands. Dan Cockerell, can I tell you, I had discovered Dan when I was seeking out why Disney did everything so well. And Disney, for me, if it's anything like you, is a company that is the epitome of service, epitome of leadership, and certainly sends a lot of messages that we can all learn from. Dan has his own podcast, his own resources that he shares amongst the world, and he is the past vice president of Magic Kingdom in Florida. Immense experience, and when you learn about his story, which he started in a car park as a car park attendant to where he's got to today, amazing resources that he has to share with us today. So can I just hand over to you, Dan, and thank you so much for being here today. I'm sure everyone will take away a lot of lessons that you have to offer us in this next hour. So over to you.
Very good. Thanks, Laurie. And thanks for everyone being here. It's 6 p.m. here in, ironically, Melbourne Beach, Florida. So I'm in Melbourne also. And I know you don't say Melbourne like the Americans do, but thanks for having me. I love sharing these messages and helping out. I wrote a book. My wife and I wrote a book that came out this past August. And I have a passage in there, and I still don't know who said this, but I'd taken this quote, and the idea was you spend the first 25 years of your life learning, you spend the next 25 years doing, and then you spend the next 25 years teaching. And I don't know if that's exactly right, but I'm 51 and I'm doing a lot of teaching these days. So it seems to fit in. Although I did talk to a group the other day and they said, what about the last 25 years? I said, well, I'm just going to assume I got the first 3 covered and then we'll see. That's all bonus time after that. So thanks for having me. I'll give you a little background and then I'm going to share my screen and take you through a short presentation. And then I know we're going to have some time for questions and answers. First of all, every group I always talk to, they say, okay, look, this is the Disney guy. I'm sure this is going to be interesting, but you have nothing in common with us. We don't have billions of dollars. We don't have Mickey Mouse. We don't have roller coasters. We don't have Mickey waffles. So, it's fine. You're going to tell us what you do, but if we were Disney, we could do what you're doing also. And what my wife and I work together now. And we always tell companies we work with, and when I do keynote speeches, everything I'm going to share today has nothing to do with resources. It has everything to do with your decision to lead people differently and think differently about your business. And I think a lot of it's going to be very common sense, because it happens to be that very common sense ideas are valuable. And a lot of companies, if they would just stay focused on the basics and do the things they should be doing, they'd be much more successful. The problem is a lot of companies don't have the discipline or the structure or the wherewithal to keep focused on the basics. And one of the things we say at Disney is keep the main thing the main thing. And it's a great reminder, because in life, the main thing, if you get the main things right, everything else seems to follow along. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and see if I can do this very swiftly. And wow, that was smoother than it usually is. Okay. So future-proof your business. And I love the fact that Laurie had titled this presentation that, how do you future-proof your business? And there is a way to do that. I'm going to talk about that today. And I'm going to talk about some things you probably don't expect me to be talking about. But I've presented recently to a lot of college students and talked to them about, a lot of them are saying, well, we're such a disadvantage. We just graduated from college and the unemployment rate is way up and we can't go out and there's these quarantines happening. And what I've been telling groups of students is, after, being 51 years old, this is not the last crisis you're going to deal with. And it very well may not be the worst crisis you're going to deal with. So take advantage now of everything you can learn. And that's a huge part of my message to every group. And it's kind of how I've lived my life is, your whole life is an opportunity to learn. And even under duress and under, difficult situations, your mindset is going to be the difference between whether you're going to be successful or not. During the quarantine period, we had 6 months of speeches canceled. In fact, my wife and I were supposed to be in Australia right now doing a speech and presentations, and we're not there. And I'm really hoping we get there eventually. But instead of sitting on the couch and waiting and hoping this went away and being victims, we decided to step forward, and we created some mastermind sessions. I had about 250 people I talked to on a rotating 2-week basis for free. We said, well, people said, why are you doing that? I said, well, I have nothing else to do, so I might as well learn. And sure enough, that experience has now translated us, and Valerie and I, my wife and I, doing a subscription community, which we just launched a few weeks ago. So everything leads to something as long as you're willing to take some initiative and think about growth. During this time period, we created a college course that we're now selling based on my book. And our daughter, Margot, who's 22, and my wife built the course. It's a 13-week course. It's got midterm exams. It's got a final exam. It has case studies. It has reading quizzes. And we're testing it at 2 universities right now. So once again, there's things that came out of this pandemic that we wouldn't have done if the pandemic hadn't existed. But the fact is, we stepped forward to make these things happen with no expectation of success, just trying. And I think that's such an important thing when it comes to the mindset. This is where I spent many years, Cinderella's castle there in the background. I actually spent 26 years with the Walt Disney Company. I worked there in college. I went to Boston University. I studied political science, believe it or not, which had nothing to do with anything I did in my life, which is most people I think study. But I ended up working at Disney in college, and I really enjoyed that experience. I've been into sports. I've always played sports and been on teams, and I love working with people and leading people and being with people. And so Disney and hospitality seemed like a great business to be in, to follow that, because there's a lot of people in hospitality and there's a lot of people at Disney. So I worked in college, and when I graduated from BU, I went back to Disney, and I said, well, I still don't know what I want to do with my life, and I enjoyed working at Disney. So do you have a job for me? And they said, well, what would you like to do? And I said, well, I have a political science degree. What am I qualified to do? And they said, you're qualified to park cars. So as Lori mentioned earlier, my first job at Disney was in the car park at Epcot. And I did that for about 6 months. And it's a common story among Disney executives. Many people at the Walt Disney Company have started on the front line because it's so important to understand that experience, because that's where all the value comes from. Every cast member, as we call them, cast members at Disney, every employee's interaction with a guest leads to them coming back again, and it leads to them talking positively about the Walt Disney Company and having other people visit us. So our executives, a lot of them started frontline because we want people to understand how important that is and how hard that job is to do. So I did that for 6 months, and I had an opportunity to get a work visa through my college and ended up going to Disneyland Paris. And this was in 1992. And I got there in January, and we opened the park in April. And of course, where do you think I worked? I worked in the parking lot because that was my specialty now. I'd done domestic parking. Now I was doing international parking, and it wasn't more exciting than domestic parking, I'll tell you that. But I was in France, and I got to open a new property, and I was learning a new language, and I was learning a new culture, and it was overwhelming. It was stressful. I was in ridiculous situations daily because when I got there, I spoke about 6 words of French. And by the end of my first year there, I was fluent in French. I could speak the language because I was open-minded. I was vulnerable. I tried every day to learn. And I just told myself, look, when you get to France, if you don't speak the language, you have an excuse. You've never lived there before. But if you're here for a year from now, you still don't speak it, that's now your fault because you didn't try. And so I tried and I tried. And I can speak French now. I can guarantee you no one's ever asked me what part of France I'm from. That question has never come up. I butchered that language, but I'm able to communicate. So I was supposed to stay for a year and a half, and I met this girl, and this girl was from France, and we moved in together. And one day we were doing the dishes in one of the most romantic cities in the world. And over washing the dishes, I came up with a plan that if we got married, I could stay. And so she agreed, and it was the most unromantic proposal ever in the most romantic city in the world. And we had about a 6-week engagement, and we got married, and we stayed there for 5 years. Then we moved back to the United States in 1997, and I spent the next 21 years working at Walt Disney World. And in total, 21 different jobs or 19 different jobs in 26 years, and just had an incredible experience, met really interesting people, talented people, passionate people, learned about leadership, learned about management. And 2.5 years ago, after 1 year of talking about this with my wife, we decided that I was going to resign from Disney and we were going to start a new life. 3 kids. One is working up in Boston, and one just graduated from college. And the youngest is a freshman in college, starting his sophomore year, and took the year off to work. So we were going to be, as we call it, Disney empty nesters is the marketing term. And we decided we were going to try something new. And so we left, and we started our own consulting company. And over the past 2.5 years, we've learned a lot. My wife and I, Valerie, we learned how to be married happily for mostly happily for 27 years. But boy, it was a big hill to climb to work together. And it took us a couple of years to figure that out, to trust each other professionally. But we are now, we're about 80% there. And she's got a very specific style, and so do I. And we're figuring out how to connect that. She worked for the company for 15 years and worked in retail and was a facilitator at the Disney Institute. So she's extremely talented. And when we're able to get along and figure stuff out together, we can do some great work. And we're having fun doing that now. This was my boss for 26 years. As I tell people, you know, he smiles, he's got these really soft ears, but do not be mistaken. He wants his quarterly earnings. He wants results. And that's something I learned in the Walt Disney Company. You're held accountable on 2 different things: getting results and how you get the results. You're held accountable to your leadership behaviors, and you're held accountable to your the financial results and the operational results that you get. And I think that's what makes Disney has been successful for so long, because we don't cut corners, and we don't, you know, integrity is important, and you are held accountable to how do you treat people. If you don't respect people, if you don't treat people the right way, you can't work there. And if you don't get the results, you can't work there. So it takes a really focused person to be there. And like I said, I just try to keep up every day in my job along the way. My book, How's the Culture in Your Kingdom? Like I said, Valerie and I wrote this together, and we published it August 12th. And it talks about our experiences working for the Walt Disney Company and what we learned along the way. And it's available on Amazon now electronically if you'd like to get that. So the first part of my book, you know, I'll take you through sort of in the same order. The whole first section of my book is all about leading yourself. And I think a lot of people are surprised by that, because you expect to find an executive writing a management and leadership book about Disney. You don't expect this self-management piece. But, you know, I grew up being an athlete. I played American football in high school. And ironically, I ended up discovering rugby union in college and played that in Boston. And I played for 5 years in France. And I've actually met some really fun Australians who have come to Orlando to play touch rugby. And I've discovered that in Orlando also, touch rugby. Although I knew the day I got hurt playing touch rugby, it was time to slow down. That's a sorry state of affairs when a rugby player gets hurt playing touch rugby, but it happens. You get old. But this idea of knowing yourself and taking care of yourself is so important. And in the book, I talk about, you know, making sure you have physical fitness, making sure that you get enough sleep, make sure you have the right diet, make sure that you're organized, make sure that you handle stress appropriately. Because the reality is, when you take care of yourself first, you're much better at taking care of your family. You're much better parent. You're a much better spouse. You're a much better boss. You do everything better when you feel good about yourself, and you need to start there. And a lot of us don't. We sacrifice ourselves, and we don't perform at our best level. We don't feel good, and then we don't do a good job with our family or our job. So I think it's very important to understand your strengths also and your areas of opportunity. If many of you may have taken this before, I'd highly recommend Strength Finders 2.0. It's a great book. It's based on the Gallup organization, and we used it extensively at Disney. And you take an assessment, and hopefully you answer truthfully to all the questions. And at the end, it tells you what your 5 strengths are out of 34 strengths. And it's a great way to become more self-aware and understand what you're naturally good at. Now, you may already know that, but this is a great way to validate that. And I've learned in my life, I want to go do things I'm good at constantly. A lot of people say, well, I want to try different things and see if I can get really good at lots of different things. You can get good at a lot of different things, but you can't be great at a lot of different things. And so leading with strengths is such an important concept. American football, when I got to college, I tried to play American football in college. I found out I was too slow. I was too weak. I was too short. I was too unskilled to be able to compete at that level. Now, the hero approach would have been, hang in there and keep working hard and try to make it. I understood I was going to work hard, but I was never going to get to the level I needed to be able to compete. So I changed the game and I went and played rugby. And it turns out I was really good at rugby because I had a lot of stamina and I was a team player. And so a lot of times you want to make sure you're in the right environment. Not everyone should work at Disney. If you like to be entrepreneurial, you should not work at Disney. If you like to work independently, you should not work at Disney because everything is done in teams. So I'm a big fan of learn what your strengths are and your passions and what you're naturally good at, and put yourself in those environments all the time. And Myers-Briggs is another great personality test. None of these is a silver bullet. But once again, the more you can use tools and be focused on self-awareness, the more you're going to learn about how to be best at what you do. When I worked at Disney, I spent 25 out of my 26 years in operations, and I spent 1 year in human resources. I was not good at human resources because I like doing things and I like leading teams and I like being in the thick of things. And human resources was a strategic job. You had to influence people. And I liked that I learned that skill. But I learned that I wanted to be around people all the time. That was my strength. And every moment in operations, when I was with people, I was more successful. And that's how I became self-aware of how to be the best I could be. And then this idea of turning your talents into strengths. A lot of people have talents. You have talents that maybe you haven't focused on. People think that you're born with certain things you're just good at and you don't have to work at it. But if you look at world-class athletes, world-class musicians, world-class CEOs, not only do they have the talent, but then they focus on working on that talent and they make it a strength. Michael Jordan is, American basketball player. There's a lot of athletes out there. It's not only talent, it also takes work ethic. And so figuring out what your talents are and turning them into strengths is a big deal. I used to think you could motivate anyone to be great at anything. And then my wife and I had our 3 kids. And we threw that concept right out the window. And we realized, 99% of what your talent is ingrained in you. It's in your DNA. You are wired a certain way. It's not to say you can't improve in whatever you want to focus on, but you got to start with what your natural talent is and then develop that for it to become a strength. Our oldest son, Julian, he's a biomed engineer. He was reading Harry Potter books in 4th grade, and he has no organizational skills. He would constantly forget his shoes. He had a great talent, but he also had a weakness. Our daughter, we have 1 daughter, Margot. Girls are awesome. Girls are organized. I don't know generally, but our daughter, for her, when she was 7 years old, for Christmas, she asked for a filing cabinet because she just likes filing things and she likes being organized. And this girl is totally organized, and we never taught her how to do this. And then we have our 19-year-old, Tristan. And as I share with the Incredibles, he's like the Jack the baby. We don't know what his his superpowers are yet. If it's playing video games and climbing trees, then he's going to have a great career. So we're still trying to figure that one out. And I'm sure this sounds familiar to maybe some of the kids you have. But once again, surround yourself, figure out what your talents are, turn them into strengths, and that'll help know yourself. Clear priorities. We talk about time management, and a lot of people think time management is, I'm going to get everything done. I'm going to make a checklist and get it done. And that is part of time management. But the problem is a lot of people focus on checking things off in a box, off a list, but they never question the things they're actually doing on that list. And sometimes the things you're focused on that you're getting done very efficiently don't even matter. So I think there's two things to time management. One is prioritize what you need to focus on. And secondly, make sure you're focused on the right things. I compare this to an expedition that's out in the jungle, and they have they're cutting their way through the jungle with their machetes. They're working hard. They're doing a good job. They feel like they're making progress. But then at one point, someone climbs up a tree and looks around and says, "Hey guys, we're making great progress, but we're in the wrong jungle." You got to make sure you're doing the right kind of things. So I have a time management system to follow up on things and follow through on all the promises I make to people. And that just takes discipline and organization, which is very important. But also I have a concept of how I prioritize myself and how my life. And the idea here is that you need to prioritize what's important in your life. Because whatever you prioritize is going to be important to you. And if you can do the things that are important to you well, you are going to be successful. And I like to tell people, don't let Facebook tell you what success looks like. Don't let Instagram tell you what success looks like. Don't let your parents tell you this, your spouse, your kids. Don't let anyone tell you what success is. You decide what success is, and then you decide if you're successful. And we get a lot of peer pressure these days. And somehow social media shows the best moments in everyone's life. And we're always trying to keep up with all these people with this perfect life. They don't have a perfect life. Right outside that lens, they got a problem. They got something going on. And I don't care how much money you have and how much you do in your life. Everyone has things they worry about. Everyone has problems they're dealing with. And so don't get caught up in that. So as I like to say, run your own race. Know who you are and run at the pace that you feel comfortable running at. So the three buckets I focus on, guess what the number one is? My most important thing in my life. It's probably my wife, right? No. It's probably my kids. No. My parents. No. It's me. As I said before, when you take care of yourself, you're better at taking care of your family. You're better at doing your job. So you have to be a little selfish. My selfish thing is getting exercise. I have to find time to get exercise because once I've run or swam and stay in shape, I can conquer anything. I feel great. And if I don't take that time for myself, then I pay the price for that. It's just like two examples. When you get on an airplane and they do the safety spiel and they talk about, if we lose pressure in the cabin, what happens? The oxygen masks fall. And if the oxygen masks fall, who do you put it on first? You put it on yourself before helping others. Because if you don't help yourself and you pass out, and the people who can't help themselves pass out, everyone has a problem now. You put it on yourself first, and then you help others. And it's such an important piece here. Secondly, family and friends. And thirdly, career. Those are my three buckets. And every day I rate myself on how I did in these three areas. Today, I went out and I took a big run this morning. Check. I feel really good. I got my workout in. Family and friends. I talked to my wife this morning. I cooked some lunch for my parents. I've had a pretty good day on the family front, but I didn't talk to my kids today. I didn't call them, so I'll give myself half a point there. And career, hopefully this webinar is going well. I had to cancel a couple meetings today because I overloaded my schedule, so I probably got half a point there. So today I got 2 points out of 3, and that's a pretty good day. And this is every single day I think to myself, how did I do with self? How did I do with my family and my friends? And how did I do with my career? And this is my internal scorecard. The last piece on this internal piece, don't fear failure. There's a great book called Mindset, and I'm going to show you some book recommendations at the end here. Mindset by Carol Dweck. And she talks about growth mindsets and fixed mindsets. People who have fixed mindsets don't learn. They keep doing over and over and over again the things they know to do successfully. They're not curious. They're not vulnerable. They don't ask questions because they don't want to look like they don't know the answer. People with growth mindsets, they ask questions. They try new things. During a pandemic, they try to do a mastermind group, or they try to create a college course. They do things to create opportunities for themselves. And a big thing about the difference between people with fixed and growth mindsets: people with fixed mindsets fear failure, and people with growth mindsets see failure as a learning opportunity. There's a silver lining in everything we do, and that mindset makes all the difference in the world. So now I'm going to jump into how you future-proof your business. And this is called the Chain of Excellence. I'm basically going to show you the basic tenet of strategy for Walt Disney World, and I would argue for your business. And Walt Disney World did not invent this. This was created by the Harvard Business Review, and it's very logical, it's very simple, and it is very effective. So first thing is, when you're running a business, every business wants sustainable results. Sustainable results. That's how you stay in business. You get cash flow coming in. People keep coming back to you. And the two keys to sustainable results in any business are two things: intent to return and intent to recommend. And that's the lifeblood of Walt Disney World. We measure those two statistics religiously, because we spend lots and lots and lots of money on marketing to get people to come for the first time. But once you have someone come and experience your product or service once, the ball's totally in your court now. And now it's up to you to convince them that product or service you offered was a great value, and they want to come back again. They want to come back again. And not that they might come back again, not that they probably will come back again. They definitely will come back again. And the other one is recommend, intent to recommend. Will you be highly likely to recommend this experience or product to a family member or a colleague? And if you can get those two right in the excellent category, not the very good, not the good, not the fair, the very good, the excellent category, that's how you grow your business over time. It is word of mouth. It's how we run our business at Walt Disney World. 85% of our guests come back. That's not their first trip. In the consulting business, almost all the business I get is word of mouth and recommendations. I have a website. I do Facebook ads. I do all that. 99% of what I get is people recommending my wife and I. And it's the same in your business. So you got to deliver that. Well, how do you deliver that? Well, you create excellent experiences for your customers and your guests. And how do you do that? You have to have satisfied employees who deliver that experience to your customers. And who's responsible for that? You are. Leaders are responsible for that. So sometimes I get ahead of myself. I just talked about this. What are the two most important metrics to grow your business? Intent to return, highly likely. Intent to recommend, highly likely. And how do you create highly likely to return and highly likely to recommend experiences? You deliver excellent experiences. And that's the model. So let's move on to customer satisfaction. So first of all, what we learned at Disney over time, you need to put yourself in the shoes of your clients, the shoes of your customers, the shoes of your guests, and see your business from their point of view. A lot of times, and I was guilty of this, when you work for a company for a long time, you become an expert. And as an expert, you're unwilling to try to do new things because you're an expert. Well, it doesn't matter if you're an expert, because if your customers don't like your service or they think you can improve it, it doesn't matter what you do. They judge whether you do an excellent job or not. And so I highly recommend people go visit your business, call your business, go on your internet website. When I worked at Disney, at least once a month, I would go as a guest, undercover boss. I'd put on shorts and flip flops and a baseball cap, and I would go visit the park and take pictures and see all the great things we were doing and recognize people and all the things we did poorly that we needed to improve upon. And there were always things to improve upon. Valerie and I are working with a client right now. And the other day they sent me an email and they said, "Hey, we're going to send you, we got your invoice and we need your bank information to pay you." Well, first of all, they emailed me 3 weeks after the payment was due. So that's number one. Secondly, they said, the lady said, "Can you call me when you get an opportunity?" I called. It rang 12 times and I got voicemail. No one answered the phone. That's a problem during business hours. Next is the message didn't say, "You've reached so-and-so. I'm not in the office right now, but if you need help, you can dial this number." It just said, "The person you're calling is not available. Leave a message." Beep. That's another problem. Then I called the main number. It rang like 10, 12 times before someone answered, the main number of this company. And that person transferred me to the same number, and I got the same voicemail again. And the next day, the person told me they were out of the office. And I was thinking to myself, you should have had a messenger out of the office on your voicemail, and you should have had a messenger out of the office on your email. So I knew not to worry about that. So already as a consultant, I have like 8 things to go tell the CEO of exactly what they can improve upon. And the only reason I did that was because I experienced their service firsthand. Every time Valor and I work for companies, we go do mystery shopping. We ask other people to go mystery shop. I used to have my neighbors go to the Magic Kingdom on a monthly basis. I said, look, here's some park tickets, here's some food coupons, go visit. And I want you to come back and all the stuff you think is good and all the stuff that isn't good. And boy, they would give me a lot of feedback. So very simple, go put yourself in your customer's shoes and see what they're seeing. Secondly, once you do that, you've done the minimum. You're now delivering a good experience, a very good experience. But the difference between a very good experience and an excellent experience isn't efficiency. It isn't the voicemail. It isn't the out of office alert. It isn't answering the phone in 2 rings. Those are all expected. That's the minimum. The next step in your business is you have to create an emotional connection with your customers, because that is going to take it from very good to excellent. And when you make an emotional connection with people, they go from, I might come back to I definitely will come back. And so what we learned at Disney over time, there's 4 things our guests asked us and said, if you can do these things successfully, we want Mickey Mouse, we want roller coasters, we want the parade, we want the fireworks, but we expect all that. If you can do these 4 things, we're definitely going to come back again. Number 1, make me feel special. Let me, if I come in and I'm wearing a baseball cap, mention where I'm from, talk to my children, go ahead and, give us special attention. Make us feel like we're, you like, our money is valuable to you. When we walk into your shop, walk up to us and greet us warmly and don't ignore us. Make sure we feel valuable to you. Get 70,000 people to do that's not easy. But I would just ask you, what are you doing in your business to make your guests, your clients, your customers feel special? And brainstorm that with your team. There's all kinds of great things you can do. Next, treat me as an individual. Don't give me the rules. Don't tell me the policy. If I want an extra pickle with my cheeseburger, bring me an extra pickle. Don't tell me it's not included. Don't give me all the little rules. I'm paying a lot of money here. If I have an allergy and I can't eat gluten, give me an option that doesn't have gluten. Don't tell me you don't have that option. So be flexible. And a lot of companies, we go by the policy and we don't make exceptions. But the exception may cost you a few dollars, but the intent to return, highly recommend, is going to bring all those dollars back tenfold. Next, respect me. Respect who I am. Respect me regardless of my color, my origin, my ethnicity. Respect me even if I ask you a dumb question. The number 1 question at the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World, you know what it is? What time is the 3:00 parade? Now, you can have fun with that question. Well, sir, let's think about that question. What time do you think the 3:00 parade is, and make them feel really dumb? What people are asking when they say that, they know it's at 3:00. They're not asking you that. They're asking what time the parade's going to come by where they are right now, and what's the best spot for them to view the parade from, and where can they get the best photos. That's what they're saying. They just don't know how to say that. So respect people and respect the money they're spending with you, and treat their children with respect. Don't ignore their children, because they're there to have a great time also. And lastly, be knowledgeable. Know what you're talking about. Don't give me false information. Know about your business. Walt Disney World and your businesses, there's lots of things you need to know. If I'm going to come out and go canoeing, or I'm going to go zip lining, I want to know what the height requirement is. Don't guess. Don't tell your people, I'm not sure what it is. Tell me exactly what the facts are, because I don't want to waste my time, and I want you to be knowledgeable about that. So put yourself in your client's shoes, experience it, make sure your business runs really well from your point of view, and do these 4 things, and you're going to deliver excellent service. Now, employee satisfaction. You all are leading teams today. And in order for the customer to get a great experience, your teams are going to deliver that experience. And as leaders, it's up to you to create the environment for those people. And these are the 4 things I focused on when I worked at Walt Disney World. A, select the right team members, the right partners on your team. If you have the right people on your team that have the right attitude, 90% of your job is done. Just get out of the way and let them do their jobs. Think about the people on your team right now. Think about your best performer and imagine if you had 5 of those people and how great life would be. You got to select the right people, have great interviewing techniques in place. Make sure you're, as my dad likes to say, hire slow and fire fast. Make sure you're thoughtful about the people you're going to bring on your team because they can make all the difference in the world. Next one, build a solid relationship with people. Make sure people know you care about them, get to know them on a personal basis, build trust with them, be connected with your teams, because people who have relationships are more likely to do a better job because they feel like they belong in the environment they're in. Next, set clear expectations for performance. A lot of times we just have people guessing about what they're supposed to do. Be clear. You know what? If that phone rings, I expect it to be answered in 3 rings. If someone walks in that door, I expect you to say, "Hi, welcome to our shop. Can I help you?" If someone walks by, I expect you to make eye contact with them. Make sure you set clear expectations for people. Somehow, as leaders, we hire people and then we expect them to sort of magically guess what we want them to do. Be very clear on what the expectations are. That's how you raise kids. We unfortunately told our youngest son one time, be home at a reasonable hour. That didn't work out too well because we should have said midnight. He thought reasonable was 4 a.m. and we had a big problem. We were the problem because we didn't give him a specific time. So once again, don't be afraid of giving specific expectations of people. It'll help them be more successful. And lastly, recognize, reward, and coach people. Give them feedback on a regular basis. Let them know when they do something well, let them know and reinforce that behavior. When they do something not well, don't be afraid of giving them feedback. Your job as a leader is to improve their performance and make them better at what they do. A, to make your business better, and B, to make them better. If you don't give people feedback to improve, you're doing them a disservice because they're going to make that same mistake tomorrow. And when they get that next job, they're going to make that same mistake. It's up to us to correct behaviors for people, and we shouldn't shy away from that. And put yourself in the shoes of your employees and your partners, just like we talked about for the guests. What's it like to be an employee in your organization? What's the break room like? What's the parking lot like? Are they treated with respect? And lastly, make them feel special, treat them as individuals, respect them, and make them knowledgeable, train them. It's ironic, right? Your employees want the same thing your guests do. They want to feel special. They want to be treated as individuals when they have a problem. They want to be respected and listened to because you're in an authority position, and we should respect people working for us. And lastly, give them the training, give them the tools to be able to do their job well and build their confidence. They'll do a much better job. So reading and resources. The Essential Myers-Briggs is a great book. Strength Finders 2.0 from the Gallup organization. Fantastic book. Mindset, I mentioned by Carol Dweck. Thank You for Being Late by Thomas Friedman. It's a fantastic book about how an optimist guide to thriving in the age of accelerations. And I won't get into the book, but it's very insightful. And lastly, this is one of my favorite books lately, How's the Culture in Your Kingdom? You can order that at culturekingdom.com, which is my website, and you get bonuses, or you can order that on Amazon or electronically. It'll come a lot faster. And our website is cockerellconsulting.com. And if you're interested in subscribing to the article of the week, you can text. Well, I don't think you can text from Australia, but if you go to the website, you can find that. And if you can't find it, just email me and I'll send you every Friday. I send an article out. I've been doing that for 23 years, just food for thought. And I'm on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and Twitter. So I do all that kind of stuff also. All right, Lori. So that's what I had to say. And boy, I wish I was in the room with you all. It's much more fun when you can see everyone and interact, but I stare into the green light and I smile and I talk, and I've learned how to do that well. So it's taken a while to motivate myself to do that, but
well,
I'd love to hear what questions are. Good.
Yeah.
It is on everyone's mind.
Yeah, great. We've got a couple. So the first one for you is, how do you trust your staff that they care about the business as much as you do?
Yeah. So, well, the first thing I'll say is you can't tell. And you know what? Your staff may not care about the business as much as you do, because you can't make them care about it. But what you can control and observe are their behaviors. At Disney, I always told people, I'm not going to judge you on what you believe. I'm not going to judge you on the attitude you have. I'm going to judge you on what I can observe. And if you can put clear expectations in place and empower people to make the right decisions along the way, they will act like they care about the business. And a lot of people will. If you hire the right people, they'll care about what they're doing. But what I'd say is, they probably don't care about the business necessarily. They care about how you treat them, and they care about how they perform in that business. And so at Disney, I didn't get into this today, but one of the big things I found in companies is you need to empower your people to make decisions. And a lot of times as an owner, we don't trust people to make decisions because they don't make the right decision. So we have to have them call a manager. And, no one wants to wait for that. And so at Disney, we've created what we call quality standards. It's safety, courtesy, show, and efficiency in that order. So every time an employee makes a decision, they always consider safety first. Never put yourself, a fellow cast member, or one of your guests in an unsafe situation. And you are empowered to intervene if you need to intervene in an unsafe situation. Whether you understand it or not, if you think it's unsafe, you hit the stop button, you yell up to the kid in the tree to come down, you do whatever it takes. Next is courtesy, be nice to people. Next is show, have them immersed in the show we're putting on for them. And last is efficiency. And so I think instead of telling people they should care about the business, train them on the behaviors you expect them to display, because you can hold them accountable to those behaviors. You can explain to them how they can improve upon those. Now, you want to explain why those behaviors are important. And hopefully once people understand why they should do certain things, it'll make more sense and they'll be able to deliver upon those. But I'm a big fan of behaviors and observable behaviors to hold people accountable to, because those you can measure.
Fabulous. And I think, I'm not sure whether it was yourself or your father, it's like what you expect you should check, and keeping that in touch all the time.
Exactly. Inspect what you expect.
Yes, that's
I
right.
expect people to wave and welcome everyone to the park. So I go out and see if they're doing that or not. If they are, I send the manager a really nice email and say, hey, great job today. Here's a picture of your cast. It looked great. Or we had a problem today. This was a standard we're supposed to deliver on. I didn't see anyone smiling, waving, welcoming people in. Can you tell me what the plan is? And it's behavior.
Wonderful. Thank you. And I suppose the next one is a bit more of a comment. It was around COVID and obviously the changes that people are having to make. And I suppose the question that could come from that is, what do you see as the shift that was before COVID to now in what you've articulated today? Is there any considerations that people need to keep in mind?
Yeah, I mean, I would tell you we're in a very difficult environment right now to be able to run businesses. We're seeing, and I know you're seeing in Australia, we're seeing in the United States, the nature of your business is deciding whether you're booming or not. The tourism business is getting hit really hard. The online electronic business is thriving. So it just depends where you were. The ideas I talked about today don't change whether you're in a pandemic or not. They're harder to execute upon. You have to work harder. You have more stress. You have more complexity, more distraction, more disruption. But these things are true whether you're in good times or bad times. You really have to play these out the same way.
Great. And I think the final one, unless anyone else has got any more, is what do you see as the biggest failing of small business today?
Yeah, I think that it's for every business, and especially small businesses, things are changing so fast. The ability to keep up with what customers' expectations are. When we were during the spring, when we were doing these calls, there was a gentleman who runs a coffee shop in Ohio, and he got on the call every week or every 2 weeks. And we talked to him, and we had a lot of fun brainstorming with him because he had this little coffee shop. He was so proud of his coffee and the quality of his coffee. He was differentiating himself from Starbucks and everyone else, but he was a small shop. And COVID hit and said, you know what? You got to close your shop. You can't have people in your shop anymore. So he stood back and said, well, do I close and lay off everybody? And he said, overnight, he went in the delivery business, and he didn't have a platform. He didn't have an app. He didn't have a website. He just got it out on social media. If you want to buy coffee from us, you text this number and order, and then you go to Venmo and you pay us on that platform, and we will look at both. And once they're done, we will deliver your coffee to you. So he changed his business model overnight. And then he started adding cookies, personalized cookies, and that added to the business. So we started, and then at one point we said, well, why don't you create a coffee shop experience? Put a little barista bar in front of people's door, ring the doorbell, put it on top, step back. And when they open the door, call their name, and they'll take their coffee off the bar and go back inside. So differentiate yourself. So I think what I've found as being an entrepreneur now, you know, when I was at Disney, I had a lot of volume I managed, but I had a very thin scope of responsibility. And now that I'm on entrepreneur, it's everything. It's marketing, it's sales, it's websites, it's email, it's operations, it's preparation. If I get up in the morning and don't do anything, nothing happens. When I was at Disney, if I got up in the morning and didn't do anything, the Magic Kingdom's still open, right? So as entrepreneurs, I think this ability to toggle between the day-to-day to execute the plan and have the ability to put time on your calendar, you know, at some interval, maybe once a month, to take time and just take a step back and go think about the things you're actually working on. And are these valuable things? I get caught up all the time working on things that have no value. And, you know, Valerie says, why are you doing that? It doesn't have return on investment. No one's going to buy that. It's what we should work on this. And I say, but I like working on it. It's fun. She goes, well, paying the mortgage is fun too. So, you know, you have to discipline yourself. But I think that every entrepreneur I've talked to, they deal with that. It's a dilemma. There's no right response to it. There's no solution. It's a dilemma. Focusing on how you're delivering the service and your people are delivering the service and getting into the weeds and stepping back and looking more broadly about where your company's going. And that's probably the hardest shift to make back and forth, but you have to discipline yourself to do that.
Yeah, awesome advice. Thank you so much. I don't know if anyone else has any other questions, but I've been taking notes through the session so that people can save that chat and take it away. But Dan, thank you again so much for being with us today. Amazing content, and we look forward to having you back another time.
Very good. Thank you. And I should have thought to have the photo. My wife and I went to Japan last year for the Rugby World Cup, and we saw, I think it was Uruguay, Australia play. And I have some great photos with a bunch of Australian fans. They are pretty, I mean, everyone is very passionate, but they were extremely enthusiastic. So I'm sure you all know that.
Yeah, we're pretty passionate about our sport.
I know you are. I look forward to getting there one day. But once again, if you have any questions or ever want, have something on your mind, don't hesitate to email us, cockerellconsulting.com. I love talking to people and interacting. And if you're interested in joining the article of the week, I'll sign you up for that. And Lori, thanks for having me.
Thank you, Dan. And for everyone that's on the episode today, I'm going to post all of Dan's content onto our Facebook page. So you've got it all there and you can connect with him. I strongly recommend it. You've got some great comments coming through in the chat. So thank you again, and see you all soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.